February 1979. Let's stay in the United States as we continue our deep dive into arcade news through the pages of Playmeter magazine. Every issue of this publication, coming out twice monthly from New Orleans, offered a real window into the operator's mindset. A mix of excitement for what was new, but also, well, serious concerns over costs, competition, and the rapid transformation of their entire industry. It was a fascinating crossroads for the coin-operated world, and Playmeter was there, capturing every twist and turn.
And for you, our mission today is to pull back the curtain on that precise moment. We're going to uncover the core challenges and the exciting opportunities operators faced. Everything from the nitty-gritty of their financial strategies to the seismic shifts in technology and even some, well, surprising cultural reflections. You'll hear about the key players shaping the industry and get a real feel for the specific concerns and bold innovations that define this pivotal time.
Okay, digging into Playmeter, the financial health of these businesses immediately jumps out as a major concern. It wasn't just about the thrill of new games. It was fundamentally about how to make and save money in a really rapidly changing landscape.
Absolutely. Thomas J. Poplar's article, The Dilemma and Needs and Those Other Operators, really lays this out clearly. He highlights a significant divide between the traditional route operator and the rapidly emerging regional mall operator of family amusement arcades. The mall operators, you see, were a much more sophisticated breed. They weren't just dropping a single machine somewhere. They were involved in complex lease negotiations,
Right.
designing their spaces, navigating city planning and zoning, and handling detailed hiring, training, even pension plans. Their entire focus was on the big picture, the full bottom line.
So they weren't just thinking about a simple 60-40 split on a machine in a bar kind of thing.
Exactly. Poplar expresses genuine frustration that industry publications often focused on things like those 60-40 and 70-30 splits or one-play two bits, which were largely irrelevant to these larger arcade operations. He felt manufacturers and distributors were still treating mall operators as if they were traditional street operators, inadvertently creating a seller's market and pushing prices up. These mall operators, placing large orders for maybe 50 games at a time, felt they were being treated as a dumping place for old equipment. It was a real disconnect.
Wow, that's a pretty strong accusation. So what did Poplar suggest? How could they bridge this gap and fix the problem?
Well, he proposed a volume by location differential, essentially advocating for better pricing for operators making large multi-game orders for a single comprehensive location. He also called for specialized seminar topics, things like qualifications for store managers, cash control and employee integrity, and a deeper understanding of cost and sales data specific to different operator types, including rent and payroll. It was a clear call for the industry to recognize its own evolution and tailor its approach.
It's fascinating how even a seemingly dry topic like accounting became such a crucial battleground for profit. I'm talking about depreciation.
You're right, and Charles C. Ross's article, Depreciation, Which Method is Best, Part 2, dives deep into why this mattered so much. He explains that amusement machines don't really fit the typical straight-line depreciation model where you deduct an equal amount each year. Why? Because their productivity isn't uniform. A new game earns more early on and obsolescence is incredibly high. Games just don't last forever in popularity. The real game changer here for operators wasn't about saving taxes outright, but crucially, about postponing them.
Postponing taxes.
Yeah, essentially getting an interest-free loan from the government.
An interest-free loan from the government. That's a brilliant way to put it.
Precisely. Ross illustrates this, showing how accelerated methods, particularly the declining balance method, could provide an operator the use of an additional $69 in year one and $20 in year two per machine compared to straight line. This ties directly into the time value of money, the idea that a dollar today is worth more due to investment opportunities and inflation. So for maximizing immediate profits and cash flow, choosing an accelerated method, specifically declining balance, was the recommended strategy to maximize that tax postponement.
Given how crucial these sophisticated financial strategies were becoming for survival, I mean, where could operators go to actually learn and hone these skills?
That's where the AMO NOA Notre Dame business seminar came in. AMOA being the Amusement and Music Operators Association. This was their 7th annual seminar, scheduled for March 9-10 at the O'Hare Hilton in Chicago. Its exclusive focus was precisely that: cost and financial strategies designed to boost operators' profits. It was targeted at top-level managers, registration limited to just 70 attendees, so a very focused, high-level event. Key speakers included Dr. John Malone, a marketing professor talking about profitability through expense control and volume strategies, and Dr. Kenneth Milani, an accountancy professor discussing cost behavior, implications for decision-making. This was serious business education for the industry.
Okay, but it wasn't just about big seminars and long-term strategy, right? Even how operators handled their daily cash flow was starting to evolve.
Indeed. William E. Donahue offered some timely advice on checking accounts that pay interest. Remember, this was still relatively new. He compared traditional bank ATS plans with money market mutual funds, strongly preferring the money funds. Why? They offered free market rates, often over 8% compared to banks' 5%, with no sales or redemption charges and flexible terms, even for just a week. Big difference. He also introduced concepts like controlled disbursement and postal float, which involve strategically using distant clearing banks to boost annual yield by as much as 2%, simply by taking advantage of how long it took checks to clear. Clever stuff. And looking ahead, the U.S. Mint was planning to release a new $1 coin in July 1979, the Susan B. Anthony dollar. Standard Changemakers was already preparing with adaptable changers and conversion kits, seeing it as a whole new range of sales potential.
Okay, let's shift gears, moving from the ledger books to the circuit boards. The biggest buzz in 1979 was undoubtedly the solid-state revolution. This was truly reshaping the industry's very foundation.
It certainly was. Michael Stroll, who was president of Williams Electronics at the time, provided some fascinating insights into this transition. His background wasn't just in games. He'd previously worked with microprocessors at National Semiconductor and terminal development at Suida. This gave him a pretty unique perspective on the shift from electromechanical to solid state. He actually joined Seeburg back in '76 specifically to help develop a solid state system for Williams pinball games, eventually becoming president in 1977. So he was right in the thick of it.
And the shift to solid state must have come with its own set of challenges, especially for operators used to the older, clunkier systems. What were some of the key reliability concerns emerging then?
That's a great question. Stroll acknowledged the complaints from operators about frequent failures and, maybe more importantly, longer downtime, but he explained it as a general overall panic due to unfamiliarity with the new technology. It was just different. Operators could often fix electromechanicals, with a soldering iron and some know-how, but solid state required specialized equipment and expertise. This meant boards often had to be sent back to distributors, leading to increased downtime and, naturally, frustration. However, he was highly optimistic. He stated that quality was already significantly higher than 5 months ago, and he predicted 1979 would be the year solid state will be more reliable. It's worth remembering, Williams had only made its full production crossover to solid state a mere 13 months prior, December 5th, 1977, so it was still very early days.
It sounds like a steep learning curve for everyone involved. What about warranty issues and costs? That's always top of mind for operators. How did Williams address those complaints?
Right. Stroll admitted their initial warranty program, while maybe excellent for about 95% of industries, simply didn't work for Coinop because downtime was just killer. So they launched a new program designed to compensate distributors for warranty work and provided incentive boards, aiming for operators to rely more on their distributors for repairs. The idea was to free operators up to focus on their core business, running the routes or arcades rather than troubleshooting complex new electronics. He also tackled the paradox of why solid-state pinballs weren't getting cheaper like calculators were. He explained that calculators are like 85–90% semiconductor parts, but pinballs are only about 30%. The rising cost of other components, wood, glass, displays, apparent displays rose 40% in just a year, actually offset the semiconductor cost reductions. Stroll argued that solid-state actually stabilized prices and prevented electromechanical pins from becoming out-of-sight expensive.
Ah, okay, that makes sense. But beyond the business mechanics and the headaches, solid state opened up a whole new world of features, right? For both players and operators.
Absolutely. Stroll highlighted several exciting developments. For operators, games like Flash, which was a big one for Williams, were getting sophisticated new accounting systems. They measured ball time, total balls played, total minutes played, to help operators adjust game difficulty for optimal earnings, conservative or liberal settings. They also featured comprehensive diagnostic systems, and a future memory fail feature was anticipated for May or June. Real tools for the ops. For players, Flash offered memory and subtle combinations. Williams' dual-action soundboard provided both traditional chime sounds and new electronic sounds, a mix. They were even exploring talking machines, though cost was a barrier at the time, adding maybe an extra $100 per game, which was significant then. Flash also featured big, impactful flashing lights, very visual, and the ability to set player expertise levels by adjusting scoring values was already operator adjustable, with the potential to become a player choice in the future. Lots of potential.
And beyond the internal electronics, the physical design of pinball machines was also changing. We started seeing that wide-body trend kick in.
That's right. Stroll explained that Williams entered the wide-body market with a game called Pokerino, after seeing it as a potential innovative change at the 1977 AMOA show. They wanted to avoid being a follower, as they felt they had been maybe with the initial solid-state transition. The wide-body design just offered extra space for more action, more features, more strategy on the playfield. Williams planned to continue building both wide-body and conventional machines, and Stroll anticipated Bally and Gottlieb would also release wide-body games soon. They did. Pokerino itself was a wide-body double-action flipper game with 10 carryover features, allowing for diverse gameplay. Roger C. Sharp, Playmeter's critic, actually gave it an excellent rating. Stroll also briefly mentioned the cocktail table those sit-down video games as a real market that Williams was exploring with a radically different approach.
So with all this innovation and the increasing complexity, who gets to play in the big leagues? Was there still room for smaller, maybe garage operations to compete in pinball?
Stroll didn't really think so. He believed that Williams, Bally, and Gottlieb now controlled something like 85% of the market for U.S. manufactured pins. The complexity of solid state, combined with their established distribution networks and sheer production quantities, simply left little room for small garage operations to become major players anymore. The barrier to entry was getting higher. On distribution, he noted manufacturers couldn't legally restrict territories because of antitrust laws. Distributors essentially defined their own areas based on their ability to support operators. And Stroll advocated limiting the number of new conventional models. Williams was aiming for maybe 4 to 4.5 per year, plus wide bodies, to help maintain resale value and prevent operator fatigue from too many new games flooding the market.
Okay, so beyond the grand strategies and tech shifts, operators were still dealing with a constant stream of new games hitting locations and the age-old problem of making them stand out.
Exactly. New machines were constantly hitting the market, showcasing these trends we've talked about. Williams, for instance, was pushing Flash with its flashy display, obviously. Also, Phoenix with the 6x bonus multiplier, and Pompeii, a 6-player shuffle alley promising soaring scoring power. They had Contact and Disco Fever pins, too. Gottlieb introduced solid-state flippers like Sharpshooter's Delight and Solar Ride, which had this cool bionic horsewoman graphic and plunger skill shots. Meanwhile, Atari announced the colossal Hercules pinball. This thing was huge, nearly 7 feet tall, 18 square feet of powerful action, double-size flippers. Really going for spectacle. Expected early spring '79, Bally released Supersonic, a flipper based on the Supersonic Transport theme, featuring 7 new tones and tunes and various bonus scoring features. Bally was also regionalizing its service schools for operators.
And Stern Electronics had some major news too, right? Something that really signaled where the industry veterans saw the future heading.
They certainly did. Stern Electronics launched Dracula, a solid-state pinball with an upper flipper and adjustable sound. Pretty standard stuff. But what was really significant was the news that pinball legends Harry Williams, yes, the founder of Williams Electronics, and Sam Stern, past president of Williams and Seaberg, were joining Stern Electronics. They were coming in to design new games and mentor new designers. Between them, they brought nearly a century of experience, and they firmly believed solid state would lead to many new features and, importantly, prove more reliable in the long run than electromechanicals. That was a huge endorsement.
But, new doesn't always mean better, and sometimes maybe you just need a screwdriver and a little paint to make a difference on location.
That's a great point, because not all new games were instant hits, especially some of the foreign imports showing up. Roger C. Sharp's Critics Corner reviewed Universal's Hercules. Not the Atari giant, this was a different one from Japan. A 2-player electromechanical pin. It only got a fair rating. Despite billing itself as the Hercules of flippers, Sharp noted design faults, weak flippers, no bonus multiplier, leading him to suggest it might be good for the home market. Ouch. Then there was Inder's Keep-Ups from Spain, a 1-player solid-state pin rated just average. Sharp called it a knockoff of Gottlieb's popular Cleopatra. And it raised the question for him, are there really places that want a single-player solid-state pin? Good question back then.
So if new games weren't always a sure bet, what about revitalizing older machines, the ones operators might have sitting in warehouses gathering dust?
That's where Tom Howarth's Adding Color article comes in, highlighting some really creative, low-tech operator solutions. Very practical advice. He suggested that thousands of old video games in warehouses, which lack the appeal of newer, colorful games, could be revived. How? Color. He detailed practical methods like using graph tape for small areas, spray mark transparent color dye for larger sections, though that needed a protective coating, or even acetate overlays for the entire screen. He gave compelling examples. A Midway TV basketball that was ignored in black and white became a hit once they colored it in. He provided detailed instructions for coloring games like TV basketball, Williams Pro Hockey, even suggesting using local team logos, Ramtech baseball, and the complex Ramtech clean sweep, even adding smoked plexiglass for effect. This was all about packaging old games, making them visually appealing again to boost their earnings. Real ingenuity from the field.
Okay, shifting focus again. It wasn't just about what was inside the machines, was it? What was happening outside the arcades kept operators on edge too.
That's a crucial point. Legal battles over music copyrights were definitely intensifying. Big headache for jukebox operators. ASCAP, the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers, had sued 5 jukebox operators across Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Why? For failing to comply with the new copyright law's compulsory license, basically not paying the required fees. And the potential damages were severe. $250,000 to $10,000 per song for infringement. That could add up fast. This followed a previous resolution where a New York operator paid an undisclosed sum in 4 figures. So ASCAP meant business. BMI Broadcast Music, Inc., another performing rights society, also planned abrupt legal action against unregistered jukeboxes. It was a serious reminder that operators needed to re-register their jukeboxes annually, with 1979 forms already being mailed out, and enforcement rested with these societies, not the federal government.
And in the mailbox section of Playmeter, one operator was suggesting a rather drastic response to this pressure.
Yes, Jay Logan of Dime Electronics proposed a boycott of records from one performing rights society. He was clearly frustrated. He argued that the Copyright Royalty Tribunal, or CRT, was getting us in the pocketbook, and that operators should make someone else pay by relying on their existing record libraries for 90 days or so. Just stop buying new records from that society for a bit. It really showed the level of frustration felt by some in the industry over these fees.
And then there's the big screen. Sometimes the spotlight isn't always welcome, especially when it comes to public perception, which was always a sensitive issue for coin-op.
Oh, absolutely. This brings us to Roger C. Sharp's stark warning about the upcoming movie Tilt. The film starred Brooke Shields as a pinball princess who was hard to beat and easy to love. Sounds okay, right? Well, the problem was the movie apparently associated pinball with gambling, drugs, and sex, not the image the industry wanted. Sharp expressed deep concern that this portrayal, which he likened to card sharking and pool parlor finessing in films like The Cincinnati Kid or The Hustler, could set pinball legislation back 30 years, a real fear. He urged the industry to divest themselves of any connection with the film. He suggested industry-wide ads condemning the picture, maybe even picketing theaters, and sponsoring good, clean, and regulated tournaments to actively counter the negative image.
That's a really strong reaction, but you can definitely understand the fear, right? A fear of returning to the dark ages for pinball, especially after all the hard work to legitimize it as skilled entertainment.
Exactly. Michael Stroll of Williams also spoke to this point. He mentioned his own public relations efforts to clean up pinball's image, trying to shake off that old association. He compared it to how the motorcycle industry had to overcome a bad rap in the past. Stroll noted the pleasure to see arcades that are carpeted and parents and children in there playing the games. That was the goal. But he acknowledged remaining taboos, things like illegal gambling tournaments and local free play restrictions. He cautioned operators to adhere to local laws to avoid giving ammunition to critics, avoid a return to the era of bingo machines, blackjack games, penny pushers, and slot machines. He highlighted that still about 30% of the population couldn't legally play pinball due to local ordinances. The fight wasn't over. Stroll also emphasized the much higher skill level in modern pinball, maybe around 75% or even higher, which allowed expert players much longer play times, further differentiating it from pure chance.
Now, while U.S. operators dealt with all these specific issues, the global coin-op scene was buzzing too, right? And the music kept playing on every jukebox.
Yeah, we got a great snapshot from the Japanese amusement machine show, the JA show, which had happened back in October 1978. Henry Manst of France, chairman of a European trade group, famously described Japan as a monster in terms of its technological advancement in this field. High praise, maybe a little fear too. This was the 16th annual show, massive scale, 9,000 square meter display, 64 companies, 292 booths, over 30,000 visitors, huge event. Key trends included a strong move toward electronics, obviously, advanced technology, and a new vehicle large zone with bigger driving games and rides. Table-type television games, the cocktail tables, had apparently taken the market by storm in Japan, though they were less popular with foreign visitors compared to the traditional upright models. Edward Miller of Tato America praised the show's quality, stating it was just as good as the AMO show in the US, high compliment. Interestingly, there was also a reverse trend, noted simple strength tester or accuracy games were gaining popularity again, and there was increased demand for small-size vehicles like kiddie rides, especially in shopping centers.
And no deep dive into February 1979 would be complete without looking at what people were actually playing and listening to on the machines.
Of course. Playmeter published its pop, R&B, and country singles charts. This gives us a direct reflection of what was hot on jukeboxes across the country. You had hits like Chic's La Freak, Billy Joel's My Life, the Bee Gees' Too Much Heaven, definitely the Village People's YMCA, and Kenny Rogers' The Gambler on the country charts. Big songs. The radio edition section also showed emerging hits making their way to the airwaves, which operators would be watching closely.
And jukebox technology itself was evolving too, not just the song selection.
Absolutely. Row International was making waves with its Disco 200 jukebox. The advertising claimed it put an entire disco into a jukebox. It featured pulsating lights, trying to capture that disco vibe, and boasted 125 honest watts of power. Pretty loud for the time. What's truly fascinating here, though, is its Memorex computer memory feature. This tracked popular selections as votes. This allowed operators to actually see what songs were getting played most in a specific location, tailor the jukebox selection, and identify declining records much faster. A direct tool to boost profits by keeping the music fresh and appealing. Smart tech.
Okay, finally, just a few other interesting tidbits that caught our eye from this period in early '79.
Yeah, a few quick ones. Jesse Dowdy successfully defended his national air hockey title against top-seeded players. Air hockey was a serious competition. Also, an interesting concept, arcade. Fred Rosen created Scores in Dallas. It was built as an arcade not for kids. It catered specifically to adults, had sophisticated decor, and a no one under 17 policy in the evenings, unless accompanied by an adult. Offered 100 electronic video and pinball games in this more upscale setting. And on the regulatory front, the Amusement and Music Operators of Virginia, AMOV, discussed new state laws allowing local license and gross receipts taxes, just showing the constant pressure operators faced from local regulations and fees. Always something.
So as we emerge from our deep dive into February 1979, what's your overarching takeaway? What's the big picture from this snapshot of the coin-op industry?
Well, what's truly fascinating here is how clearly we see the industry grappling with massive growing pains. It really feels like a transition period. You see the shift from what was largely a street business individual machines here and there to a much more sophisticated, multifaceted entertainment sector, especially with the rise of the mall arcade. The challenges of rapidly evolving technology, like solid state, increasing regulation like the copyright stuff, and shifting demographics were all converging at once. It really highlights how incredibly dynamic and, frankly, adaptable these operators had to be. They were constantly balancing their enthusiasm for groundbreaking new machines with the very real concerns of managing costs, dealing with reliability, and safeguarding public perception. It was a real tightrope walk.
That really sums it up well. So this raises an important question for you, our listener. Considering the mix of enthusiasm and concern we've seen, all the things happening in just this 1 month, what single innovation or challenge from this period do you think had the longest lasting impact on how we experience entertainment today?